We're going to be using a 1X heavy hook, and we're going to use brown 6/0 thread. And we're going to already lay a base of thread, as you can see right now. We're going to be using some closed cell foam. You can see it's about medium thickness, and we're going to trim it to be just a little longer than the shank. We can measure it up against the shank here, and we want it to go a little bit beyond that. So we're going to tie it in. Now at first I'm using some big wraps and crossing back and forth. Now you notice the eye of the hook is right there, and we're going to go right up to the eye. Now eventually we're going to trim that down and shape it, but for now we pretty much have it up to the eye. We're going to go back and forth, and each wrap I'm going to add a little bit more pressure. Back and forth, and it'll compress the foam so it's on nice and tight, and it will not rotate on you. Now we see that the foam is nice and compressed. We have plenty of wraps of thread on it, and we're ready to cut the back part of the foam. Now we're going to shape it. I'm going to tilt it here so you can see it, and you can come up with your own designs on how to shape this bottom part of the ant. You don't want to have it too long. I think when we finish the fly you'll understand why. We're going to use some olive colored Crystal Flash chenille. And we're going to tie it in. And then we're going to take a saddle. This is a light dun. It can even be a dark dun. I use dun. You could also substitute grizzly hackle too, but I like the dun. We're going to tie it in and then move our thread to the front. Now we're going to grasp the chenille and move it forward, just like that, right up. We're going to leave a little space here. So you notice this right here, just a little bit of space, about 3/4 of the way down the shank. And we're going to trim, tie it off. And at the same time, you don't even need any hackle pliers. If you have a saddle long enough, you're going to wrap it forward, just like this. Want a little bit of hackle there. Looks like a woolly worm with foam underneath it. Trim off our hackle. We have another piece of closed cell foam, a dark brown, that we're going to lay on top. We've already trimmed it out. We're going to lay it right on just like this. Make a couple loose wraps until we have it in position. Make sure that it's a little bit beyond the body part of the foam, the tan foam. And then we're going to tighten it up with a couple, 3 more wraps. Now we're going to use some round rubber legs, dark brown, and this is medium size, and I've cut 4 of them just in one big cut, about 2 inches. And we're going to take one of those, separate it right from the group. Now we're going to lay it right in to the side of the body just like that. Make one wrap to make sure that the legs separate just like that. You don't want to have one up and one down, but if they're put in properly, they'll be just coming straight out of the body. Now we'll make a couple wraps to tighten it up. Now they may start to come in on you like this, and that means it's kind of slipped in there, so you may have to bring your thread up over like that and move them around. You don't want them to have them right tight together. Okay, now we're going to get another one just like, and we've already of course got the same size because we cut them all at once. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Lay it in, make one wrap. Now one thing you got to watch is to make sure you don't wrap your thread around like that underneath the hook. So once you get it in and you feel like you have it in position, then wrap about 3 or 4 more wraps. And then take a look at your legs and make sure that they're all in place. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to take our thread and advance it through the body, just like that, right up to the front where we have this little space. At the same time, we're going to pull our foam forward and tie it down, kind of like a humpback there. And we'll build a kind of a base in there. And make sure that you take your thread back to this tan underbody, just like that. Ah, that looks good. Almost looks like a sandwich right there. Now, what we're going to do, is cut some pearl crystal flash. It's going to be an underwing. How many strands? Well, if you want to count them out, it's going to be about 25 strands. If you don't want to count them out and not take about 2 hours to tie this fly, just a nice little group. Kind of measure it up against maybe half the gap width will help you in how many you need. All right, we're going to lay it in so that it, now the nice thing about this, if you get it too long, you can always trim it. Now we're going to tie it in and make sure it doesn't twist on you. It's very important. Make a couple loose wraps, make sure it's right up on top. Then you spread it out a little bit. It shouldn't be beyond the tail part of this fly. So you want to just come and just trim it up a little bit like that. Now we're going to get some elk hair. This is some light elk body hair. And we're going to trim them out. And this again is going to take a little practice for you. You want to also stack it too. We're going to stack it here. We have a nice bunch of elk hair about the gap width. We're going to put it in our stacker. Drop it in. Stack it, and it's going to come back up nice and even. I'm going to grab it and then lay it in. Now before you lay it in, grab a hold of the ends and make sure you get all the loose little hair, guard hairs and fur out of that. You can also comb it out if you have one of the little dubbing combs. A couple loose wraps. Now I'm going to add a little bit of water-based cement. It's a very flexible cement. And we're going to put it in and let it penetrate. While it's penetrating, while the glue is drying, I'm going to add a little wax and some Arizona Crystal Rabbit olive color. And we're going to just dub it right on. Dub it on fairly loose. I'm dubbing in this Arizona Crystal Rabbit. And we're going to tie it in, covering up the thread. And it's going to help anchor the hair. Now at this point, we can roll over this foam and then tie it down. Now you can notice we've got a large piece of that foam hanging there. I'm going to turn it so you can see it a little bit better. We're going to come in and trim it, just like that. And tie a few more wraps. Now we're ready to add the front legs. Can't have a ant with legs on the back and not the front. So we're going to reach around. We should have 2 legs left. And we're going to put them right in on the side, lay them in. And you'll get, the more you tie these, the more you'll get where you can put them in equally. Other than the first time, you're going to have to kind of play with it with that first tie before you tie it in with your anchoring wraps. Now we're going to go to the other side. You should only have 1 leg remaining now. We don't want to make this into a cripple, so we're going to put legs on the other side. Nice loose wrap until we get it on. Make sure that it's nice and even. And tie it down. Now you got to watch that you don't do that. Tie down that back leg because you got legs going everywhere. At that point, you can kind of take a look at your fly, make sure everything looks right, and you're going to bring your thread forward, make 1 wrap right in between the foams, and then the other wrap in front of the eye. And we'll get our whip finish and whip it off, and that will complete the fly. And we'll take a look at our Amy's ant. There it is. Now, it doesn't look like any ant. My daughter, actually, who I named this fly to, said, "Dad, ants don't have 8 legs," and she's right, but this really is to imitate a stonefly. The Chernobyl ant is just what the name says. Chernobyl ant means it's a mutant ant. Hung around Russia too long. This was the winning fly in the Jackson Hole 1 fly. The Frontier International Anglers used this fly exclusively to win the 1999 One Fly here at Jackson Hole. It's a terrific fly. You can use it for any kind of terrestrial. It'll work great for you.